Hi there, this is Chelsea from Join the Creative Site and I want to thank you so much for watching this video. I just want to announce something, so please don't skip this intro. If you're struggling with coloring your digital art, I got the perfect solution for you. I have launched a Skillshare class about how you can color your artwork like a pro in Adobe Photoshop, and you can join. During this class, I'll teach you how you can add more dimension to your art by using advanced color techniques, which are actually really easy to implement. Once you get the hang of these techniques, you can use all the tips, tricks and strategies in your upcoming digital paintings. This will make sure you will make faster and bigger progress and your art will become more profitable. If you sign up through the link in the description, I'll give you 2 free months. So, if you want to learn how to implement all these color techniques, I definitely recommend you to watch the Skillshare class. So, this time-lapse is actually a fast-forward and edited version of the Skillshare class. So, sign up for the Skillshare class by going to the link in the description and I'll see you inside. As we already discussed, a color palette can attract a certain kind of movement or emotion. So using the right color palette is crucial for your drawings. In today's module, I am going to show you how to build a good color palette. So the first thing I want you to do is to get rid of this white background, because when you're using a white background, your colors are not shown in their purest form. With that, I mean that if I'm going to use something like gray over here, you barely can see it. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it a little darker. Make this thing a little bigger. So you can do it in this way, like coloring it, or grab the paint bucket tool and then just change the background color. So as you can see, there's like a delay in my painting. I'll fix that as soon as I can after this, and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so I fixed the delay in my brushes. By the way, if you're experiencing this lag too, I have a solution for you. So the main reason why I'm experiencing this delay is I'm working on a 7-year-old laptop. So at the moment I can't afford like something really new, but hey, sometimes you just have to do it with the stuff you have. And this also proves that you don't need all those kind of expensive gears to create beautiful paintings. So I'm going to show you how you can fix the lag of your work. So what I first recommend you to do is to adjust your spacing. I always increase mine up to 5 if I experience lag, and then turn off smoothing. And those small things are the things I am doing to remove that annoying lag. So I just fixed the brush lag, so now we can continue to the color palette. So what I did was just adjusting the spacing of the brush and removing the smoothing function, and then all the lag will disappear. Okay, so now we're going to build the color palette. So for this I'm going to select a color. Okay, so actually I'm really happy with the color I've already picked. So for this example, I am going to show you how to work your way through this color palette. So this palette I'm going to create is a common color palette people are creating. So this is what I don't recommend you to do. And tada! This way is called color picking. So what you're basically doing is you're just picking the colors from light to darker to create a color palette with shading. So why I don't recommend this color palette is because it looks boring. That's just the harsh truth. That's the only thing I can say about it. Or actually I can say more about this color palette, but summarized in one word is this one looks boring. It doesn't have any dimension in its color. Of course you can make a beautiful gradient out of it, but it hasn't a movement. It doesn't tell an emotion. It is just flat boring because we're literally going from light to dark and it's just gray and muddy and it's not feeling warm, even though this is a warm color. So for this one, it's a big nope. Don't do it this way. So here's another way you can do it. I actually recommend this way more than the first one, but it's still not my favorite way. So we're going to start with the base color again. And we're going to create highlights and shadows. So this is how I'm going to do it now. And ta-da! As you can see, this color palette has way more dimension in it. It's warmer and it's colder, so it goes from warm to cold, so it doesn't have one consistent temperature. And that's what I like about this color palette, because with a drawing, of course, you have depth, and in some perspectives the front side of your digital painting is warm and the back side is cold. So next to it, I'm going to create a variation of the color palette. Here I'm going to create all kinds of forms. But you can also make a whole warm palette out of this. That's what I'm going to do now. You're just the first 3 ones you're going to continue. And then for the lighter ones, you're not going in the cold direction, but also in the warm direction. And of course, this middle one also is kind of cold, so we're going to make it warmer. And ta-da! And what you can do now is, when you're just going to move this variation, so just to repeat, this one I'm holding now is a variation of warm and cold. You're still following me? This one is warm, and next to it we're going to create a cold color palette. So why we're going to do that? That's because I want to show you something after that. So I'm going to zoom in a little more. So all we just have to do is to go to this side. So actually I'm just literally tracing this color scheme. And I'll explain later to you why I'm doing that. Midtone. So I'm going to tell you something that's probably going to blow your mind. So this color palette is made out of all kind of red tones. As you can see over here, this is all red, but here is the difference. This side of the color palette, or this direction, symbolizes the saturation. This side symbolizes the values of a color. So let me explain it to you. The more you go to the right, the more saturated your colors will be. The more you're going to the left, the more low saturated your colors will be. So here is red in the purest form. I'm so sorry for hurting your eyes. Now this is just way too bright in my opinion. And if I'm going to slide to the left, keep your eye on this one, you'll see it will decrease saturation and eventually will turn into white. As we already discussed, this side of the color palette symbolizes value. With that I mean the darkness and the lightness of one color. So over here we're just going to pick the middle point. We have light red. It also kind of looks like pink. And when we're going all the way down, you can see it turns way darker, even a purplish kind of color. And then we're going lower, it's now purple brown, and all the way to black. And when you're going to the left, it goes from white to gray to dark. On the right, it goes from bright red to dark red and almost brown to black. So this is how you can build a color palette from that. So over here you can see that we literally just traced the color picker. And right now I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So I finished the color palette. So as you can see, from here is the saturation, and from here are the values. So this is one way you can create a color palette for your work. So here, saturation, here, values. Okay, so now we have the boring color palette, the variation color palette, and here's my hack to create a color palette from mixed values and saturations. Okay, so now I'm going to create another way. So I'm going to grab another type of red over here. And now I'm going to show you my favorite way of creating a color palette and also the way I recommend you to do so. So what I'm doing right now is I'm also using the color sliders to create more of a warm feeling and more depth and more emotion, etc. So that is actually my secret, also using this slider to create highlights. So instead of using light red, aka pink, try to use yellow. So this is my favorite way to build a color palette because it looks way more beautiful. So instead of just color picking with the highlights and shadows, try to also move around the color sliders to create a variation in your highlights and shadows. So now I'm going to blend all of these colors just to show you how it looks when all those colors are blended, and also because I know that those blending videos are really satisfying. So you're welcome. So this is one of those blending techniques I'm using, so I'm not going in detail about this because later on we have a blending module where I'm going to show you how you can blend everything properly, but I'm just going to blend this now. And here you have your color palette. So we're literally going from this boring middle color to this way of creating red. This part of the red is the more dominant part, and for adding highlights and shadow you can increase your way up or down. So now I'm going to create my color palette we're going to use for my Paint Along with Ralph modules. So I already created a character we're going to draw. So this is Ralph, he's kind of an octopus monster, and I'm going to create a color palette for him. So what I want to attract is Ralph is really sweet and lives kind of in his own world and kind of a magical monster feeling combined. So now I'm going to create his color palette and then I'm going to get back to you. So here's my color palette for Ralph. So small confession, I don't plan every color palette in advance because sometimes I change my mind or come up with new ideas. For example, I'm not going to create a whole color palette for a tooth over here. Not that much of effort, but I don't even know which color it's going to be. So probably yellowish, but this just for example. So this was the module about how you can create a color palette. I really hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next module.